Have you ever studied something that felt easy and then forgotten it almost immediately? But when something felt difficult, confusing, slow, uncomfortable, it somehow stayed with you longer? That's not a coincidence. That's how the brain decides what to remember. The mistake most learners make. When learning feels hard, people assume something is wrong. They simplify. They reread. They make it easier because ease feels like progress. But your brain doesn't measure learning by comfort. It measures learning by effortful change. If a task feels too easy, the brain quietly labels it as unimportant. And unimportant information doesn't last. What research actually shows, cognitive psychology has repeatedly shown the same pattern. Information learned with effort is remembered longer than information learned with ease. This effect is known as desirable difficulty. Difficulty here does not mean confusion or overload. It means effort that forces the brain to work. Studies comparing easy practice, rereading, copying notes, with effortful practice, retrieval, explaining, problem solving, consistently show stronger long-term memory in the second group. Not because they studied more, but because the brain had to struggle. Why struggle changes the brain. When learning feels smooth, the brain recognizes patterns. Recognition is fast, but it's shallow. Struggle forces the brain to do something different, search for information, rebuild connections, correct mistakes, strengthen pathways. These processes physically change neural circuits. No struggle means no signal that change is needed. Why mistakes help more than success. One of the strongest findings in learning science is this. Trying and failing before getting the correct answer leads to better retention than seeing the answer first. This is called error-based learning. When you make a mistake, the brain becomes more alert, attention increases, correction sticks deeper. The brain doesn't remember what was easy. It remembers what required adjustment. Why easy learning feels productive. But isn't easy learning feels good because it reduces uncertainty? You reread, you nod along. Everything feels familiar, but familiarity is not understanding. The brain confuses recognition with mastery. Struggle breaks that illusion. If you can't retrieve, explain, or apply information, your brain knows the learning isn't finished. The line most people cross. There is an important boundary. Too little difficulty, no learning. Too much difficulty, overload. Effective struggle feels slow but controlled, uncomfortable, but clear, challenging, but not hopeless. Once confusion turns into frustration, learning stops. Struggle builds memory. Exhaustion destroys it. How to use struggle correctly. Here is how to apply this principle without wasting time or energy. 1. Retrieve before you review. Before looking at notes, stop and ask, what do I remember right now? Even partial recall is enough. Research shows that retrieval strengthens memory more than rereading ever will. Struggle first, check later. 2. Explain without support. Try to explain the idea without notes. If you get stuck, that's not failure, that's a signal. The brain strengthens exactly where explanation breaks. 3. Let mistakes sit briefly. Don't rush to correct errors immediately. A short delay increases learning. That discomfort tells the brain, this correction matters. 4. Make learning slightly harder on purpose. If studying feels too smooth, add friction. Change question order. Mix topics, switch formats, explain aloud. Your brain needs resistance to adapt. 5. Stop when struggle turns into fatigue. Struggle helps learning. Fatigue blocks it. When effort turns into mental fog, stop. Consolidation happens after effort, not during burnout. The real shift. Struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of engagement. If learning feels a little uncomfortable, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Not faster, not easier, but deeper. If learning feels uncomfortable sometimes, that's not a bad sign. It usually means your brain is working where it should. Most people try to escape that feeling as fast as possible. But the question is, when was the last time you struggled to learn something and actually remembered it later? Share one moment below.